we're here, we have a big honor for him. This gentleman who is with us this afternoon is someone who is very accomplished and did a fantastic job at running the McCain campaign in New Jersey. As you know, Ann Mary is my chief of staff. You know, we had a tough year, but that's not due to the staff, and that's not certainly due to the support that came from everybody who worked for the McCain campaign. We had an economic problem in this country, as we know about, which is continuing on, and that really is the great factor about what happened. At the end of the day, Dave Tukey, who is with us today, I have to tell you, he's outstanding. He did a fantastic job with all of his duties and responsibilities, and it's a real big honor for us to have him here to talk about what happened in that campaign and where we go in the future with the state of New Jersey and Republican politics. So give Dave a nice warm round of applause.
So thank you very much, Assemblyman, for having me here. Thank you, Tom, for the invitation. And I wanted to first thank some of my fellow campaign folks here who we fought as hard as we could. We left it all on the field, and I was really proud of the job we did. Susan Enderley was the vice chair of our women's coalition here in the state, and our women's coalition was really something that was emulated across the country in the campaign. They had women calling women phone banks once a week that reached out to hundreds of thousands of women across the state and other states even. And the outreach that they work to do is something that I think we can emulate in statewide campaigns going forward. I also want to thank Ann Mary O'Rourke for all that she did in Passaic County. We had a number of great events in Passaic County, in Hawthorne, in Wayne. It was really incredible. Every time I came up here, I'd never been to Passaic County much before the campaign. I'm from Hamilton down in Mercer County, but I've been here several times since, and I think that shows the kind of job that Ann Mary did and the excitement that she built here in this county. And I also want to recognize Stephanie Fila, who is the volunteer coordinator for the campaign. Perhaps the most thankless job of any job in either campaign this past cycle. She was on the phone every day, dealing with every request you could possibly think of. And she always did it with a smile on her face and managed to get everything done in our office, even when we were really understaffed. And so I think she deserves a really warm round of applause. So I want to start off today by telling you a little bit about myself and explain why I believe in the Republican Party so deeply, and then offer very briefly a few thoughts I have for where we go from here. I'm be happy to take any questions from you afterward. So, my family, or at least half of it, is pretty new to this country. My mother came here when she was 23 from Jamaica after a series of events I want to tell you about that I think illustrate what makes this country great. It happens that those ideas that make this country great are also the pillars of the Republican Party and things that we really need to highlight. So my great-uncle Harry, in 1941, was sitting in Jamaica, and he said that he wanted to go fight for the United States in World War II. And all his family, they turned to him and they said, "Harry, Mom, you're crazy. Black men, they're going to send you to die." And he said, "I don't care. This is a cause we're fighting for." So sure enough, he joined the U.S. Army, and he was among the groups that stormed the beaches of Normandy. And he was shot, but he lived. And while he was in the hospital recovering, he got a letter from my grandmother saying, "Harry, what you've done is so brave. I want to be a part of America as well." So the U.S. Army had given him $600 for his service. He gave $300 of that to my grandmother, and she used that to pay her passage to the United States. She settled in Connecticut, and she'd never owned a winter coat before, being from the tropics, so she took a job that would provide her with a uniform with the government. So after 11 months, she had saved up enough money to be able to buy her first property. That was her dream. She wanted to become a property owner. And within a few years, she had bought up 18 more around the area where she was, in Bridgeport. And I'll never forget Thanksgiving one year, she was telling us that story, and she said, and then one day, the FBI and the INS, they cornered her in an alley, and they said, "We don't understand how an immigrant colored woman could be taking so much of our money." And she said, well, this is America, and I'm playing by the rules. And I think in the story of those two people, we see what has made America so attractive to people over time. Our military squashes evil, and our government is wise enough to sit back, let people make their own decisions, and have expectations that people are going to innovate and create wealth. Those are the ideas that have made America great, and I believe that they're the ideas that have made the Republican Party something of the linchpin that's led America in the world. And for most of my lifetime, those great ideas have been what's guided progress. The Republican Party that defeated communism, the Republican Party that put forth the policies that allowed the internet to be invented, the pro-growth policies that have spurred any number of innovations that have made people's lives better all around the world. So then why then, we ask, are we at this place where we are very much in the minority right now? And a lot of people are putting forth ideas about what needs to be done. Some of them are very complicated. And I'm just going to talk to you about three things that I think, very briefly, that we can do to put ourselves back in the driver's seat. And it starts by just thinking practically. Population numbers, for the next few years, we're going to see some serious demographic shifts in this country. And for us to be able to succeed, we have to make sure that we bring new people into our party, people who weren't there before. And in particular, we're going to see the Latino population skyrocket, almost exponentially over the next few years. And so we really need to think about ways to attract people of Latino descent, Latinos, into our party. And there's one way there's the ground game to do that. I tend to think that any recruiting, any going out into the streets and talking to people and getting them to volunteer, bringing them into a cause, that can always work. I remember when I was head of the College Republicans at Princeton. Some people think of Princeton as a conservative place. It's not. We had about 20 people on our email list for the College Republicans when I got there. I said, how do you get more people into the College Republicans at a place like this? And what we did, we just built a kind of a top-down recruiting structure, and we managed to get about 200 people active and doing things by the time the year is out. And the key to that was personal contact and just believing that these folks want to come and be a part of the right cause. But on a larger level, we need to do some other things. That brings me into my second point, which is just to simplify and execute. We need to encourage our elected officials. We can all gang up on Scott and Ann Mary here about this. That was a joke.
I take things very seriously.
Encourage our elected officials to really speak about the things that we know are right. And I'll give you an example. Specifically for Latino outreach for the McCain campaign, I had a lot of conversations, and they frequently ended with this sort of thought. Latinos saying, we believe in social conservatism and low taxes, but the Republicans here in this state, they don't practice those things. And so why should I jeopardize my livelihood by siding against the Democratic Party to go with a cause that isn't really acting on the principles that I believe in, that they believe in, that bring us together? So I don't know. Elected officials obviously have a number of other things, a number of challenges. Figuring out a way to make sure that a few things we're standing on principle and on what we really believe. Sometimes I think that being the minority party, it allows you to say things like that a lot more, and just wait until you have your "I told you so" moment come back to you. So the first thing is recruiting. The second thing is simplifying and executing. And the third thing I'll just